So the last thing I want to talk about is how we could actually do continuous integration. Well, what's continuous integration? Well, continuous integration allows us to find out if changes that we have made to our code end up breaking any tests. In essence, really, it's allowing a third party to run our tests. That's one part of continuous integration, and probably one of the more important parts. So one of the things that I've done here is that I actually took the code that I wrote before and I put it up on this branch. You can see here's my code, here's my test, and this is actually what they'll run when I set up my continuous integration. And there are a number of sites that do this. I have been using Circle CI, but there's any number of these. And usually there's a little bit of configuration that you have to do to set it up, not a ton. As we end up adding to the application, database, code, and that sort of thing, things can get a little bit more complicated. But for now, all I'm going to do here is I've got something pretty basic. And again, if you set this up early, it'll make life a little bit easier. And I'm just going to click on this and say Set Up Project. And it's actually giving me some instructions. It's saying, hey, you can do this, but I've got to know the configuration settings for this. And what it's basically doing is setting up an environment to run your tests. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this code, and it's telling me create a folder called Circle CI with a config.yml in it. So I'm going to go back to my application. This is not going to really break anything in my application. There's nothing new that I need to install. But I'm going to end up adding a .circle CI as a folder. And then I'm going to add a config YML, which is a YML file, which is a type of a markdown. And I'm going to paste this code. Again, these are settings that you might end up changing. The only thing I'm going to change is I'm not using Yarn. I'm using NPM. And so I'm just going to change this to NPM. And I've got to actually now push this. If I look at my status, I'll see this folder is not there. The way that Circle CI finds out about it is that if it's up on GitHub, I'll say add Circle CI, spelled correctly, and I'm going to push it up to GitHub. Now when I do this, I'm actually ready to test it, and so I'm going to say start building. Sometimes this can take a minute to set up, but this is actually going to start running my application. I could actually even open this up here, and I could actually see this whole process running. It's spinning up this environment, and it's going to end up running my tests, and it'll tell me, actually, look, my tests ended up passing. Just to show you that this works, I'm going to go over to my spec, and I'm going to break it. I'll see that it ends up breaking here locally, but I'll go over here, I'll say git.status, git.add dot, git.commit, break it, git.push, and what I'll see, if I go back to Circle CI, I've given Circle CI permission to access my GitHub repos. If I go back to my app, it'll tell me that this is queued, and it's waiting to end up running. And it's going to end up running. And not only will I end up seeing this on Circle CI, but actually if I go and I look at my branches and my commits, it'll tell me, hey look, this is running now on Circle CI. This ended up passing on Circle CI. And now if I go back here, it'll tell me it failed. And that's just a quick setup. Of course, I would fix it and then go and change it on Circle CI. But you get the idea of how the integration works.